This is Paul Levy here, and you might hear the noises in the background of the city of Brighton waking up. There's some rubbish being collected in the street behind me, and I'm in Royal Pavilion Gardens, and actually at Pavilion Gardens Cafe, which is a place that I come regularly to do some writing. When I say writing, I mean writing in a physical notebook. It's a beautiful, inspiring view. Let me show you. The cafe's just opening and chairs are going out, and soon I'll have a pot of tea, but I haven't put this video on to tell you that. I actually want to talk to you a little bit about AI. Now, you might be using, or I would say a lot of students are using, generative AI, and that's the general term for the generation of different kinds of media. If you use ChatGPT, that can now generate not only text but also images. There are also platforms for generating music and video and all kinds of stuff. And universities have struggled and are still trying to catch up by updating their procedures to make sure that when you write, you don't get yourself into unintended bother. And there's always been rules to stop mis or malpractice in writing assignments, and what probably is the most popular word is cheating. Slightly longer word is plagiarizing, where you essentially in your assignments copy, either deliberately or sometimes accidentally, unintentionally, the work of other people. Now, the nature of generative AI is that it's been pre-trained on pretty much every single book, everything that's ever been written, pretty much literally billions if not more images. And so pre-trained doesn't mean it's a database that it just calls on everything. It's absorbed all of that information, and therefore the way that it works is when it tries to guess the next letter prompted by you using natural language that it now understands, the next letter is linked to another letter, which becomes the most likely answer that it thinks is going to address your prompt or your question. And since 2022, it's become very, very good at doing that, and that was the breakthrough, that was the hype that everybody heard about how artificial intelligence had really arrived, although the term's been around for many decades. And there's a risk to you when you use generative AI. One of the risks is an ethical one, that simply by relying more on it to generate content which you use in your assignments, the risk is that it's no longer your work. And when that risk is simply to you, it simply means, and we've even got evidence emerging now, that your own cognitive faculties decline because you no longer do your own thinking. And particularly we're noting that students are lacking critical thinking when they get AI to do it for them, because they simply don't exercise, you might call it the thinking muscle. But also there's a risk simply that you will fall foul of university regulations that are not new to AI. They were always around, that it's against the rules, and it almost doesn't need to be said, it's against the rules for you to copy other people's work and put it in your assignments. And we've had tools around like Turnitin, which can actually simply tell pretty confidently enough for it to actually be used in an academic misconduct hearing, that it can be used to say 30 or 40% of your writing has been used to copy, and that can get you a 0 mark. It can have even worse sanctions. And when AI came along, the danger was that you would prompt it and it would simply, and sometimes very, very tendently, copy the work of other people. Now, AI doesn't tend to copy word for word, though there's lots of evidence it gets pretty close and sometimes does copy phrases word for word. But a lecturer, for example, marking your work can pretty quickly and instinctively tell if something's been written using ChatGPT, for example. So the risk to you is one, I would just say, is about your own personal well-being, health, development, your ability to get a good career in the future as you start to not practice the faculties that would normally enable you to become a clearer thinker, a better researcher, a critical thinker, somebody who can ask good questions, somebody who can answer questions as well, and flow pretty well in terms of things like writing. And particularly that you're practicing being an original thinker. And the danger of getting AI to think for you is that you will probably find that the thinking it does for you, at least in the current stage of AI development, isn't very original, isn't very impressive, and you will end up getting a mediocre or worse mark. But even if you can prompt it, ask it, set it up to become more original, well, firstly, your own development is kind of stunted, but also tools are being developed all the time to tell the difference between whether that's you or whether that's an AI. Now, of course, there are much more positive ways to use AI, and you can prompt it in very skilled ways to augment what you do, to assist what you do. And if a bit like needing to reference your work properly, when you've used the work of other people, you reference the AI that you've done. And quite a lot of courses allow you to do that, where you can show how your thinking has developed using AI very proactively and consciously. And the appendices of an essay, for example, the supporting information shows your prompting process. Then that can look a bit like your laboratory process, your experiment, how you carried out an experiment. It can show how you developed your thinking, and that process in an appendix then is not you trying to hide it, it's you trying to show it. So we're still finding our way in higher education, and the key thing that you have to do is find out what the rules are. Each college or university or school has very clear rules, and if you don't know, you can ask your teachers, your lecturers, what the rules are. Now, there'll be institution-wide rules, but there will also be rules perhaps within, say, a department, a faculty, that are adapted to the particular subjects that you're doing, and sometimes it's made very clear how and why you should use or not use AI in a particular assignment. So it can also be certain adapted rules at the level of an assignment too. So just as you had to get wise to what the rules were on any course that you signed up to, you need to be wise on the latest rules around AI as well. Overall, I've spoken to students in recent years, the last 3 years really, and we get different answers. Some students clearly are just wanting the piece of paper and are just gaming the system. And ultimately, I really do encourage you not to take that route, because when you get to job interviews, and the particularly most creative jobs in the age of AI, are going to test you for your originality, for your ability to think critically, for your ability to pose important questions and answer them precisely. All of those things are going to be testing you without the help of generative AI in most cases. And the idea is that generative AI becomes a tool that assists us and not one that replaces us. Now, you might have read that actually AI is replacing a lot of people in different jobs, but still testing you and assessing you is going to change, but it's still always going to focus on how are you growing, how are you developing as an individual, not plugged in. And in the future, if we do start plugging in and having implants, that's something we'll face in the future. But as things stand at the moment, I recommend that you enjoy the use of AI, stay within the guidelines, stay within the rules, and make sure that you arrive intact as you, and that you've got the skills and the abilities and the attitudes needed to get the best jobs, have the happiest life and the best career. And all the evidence at the moment is that AI is being very, very hyped up. It's useful, it's helpful, in some cases it's extremely helpful, saving us time and assisting us and augmenting us. But in many cases at the moment, either consciously or unconsciously, we end up not getting the best out of it, and then we don't get the best out of ourselves.